All right, we're all here. I'm here. Craig here.
We're
Uh,
not all here.
Chris,
I'm dead. I died.
Christopher is here. We're the Grumpy Dungeon Masters. Fuck yeah, we're here. Intro's over.
Yeah, I'm still battling COVID post vacation. We haven't streamed in like a month. We haven't done our live play D&D in like a month. It's just been the worst year for getting the games running and the stream schedule steady.
Yeah, it apparently COVID's just going around right now. My friend went to Disney World, got back, boom, COVID.
This one for me was the worst. This is the second time I've had it,
Yeah.
and it's affected me. I had the standard cold symptoms, but the muscle pain and fatigue has been the worst part of it. And like I have an old neck injury that I take a lot of painkillers and muscle relaxers to kind of like soothe sometimes,
hmm
and it's just been through the roof, just agonizing most days. Um, so I've been fighting through it. I have about an hour's worth of talk in me, so that's why we're here. That's why I'm here.
Should be just enough time to get this podcast done.
We'll struggle through it. I promise you, it'll be fun and
D-
entertaining.
Despite the fact that we've been talking about Baldur's Gate for the last 15 minutes off air.
Well, you're gonna have to carry some of the workload.
Oh, okay. Well, good luck with that.
All right. Well, we started off on a positive note. Time for a depressing note.
Yep.
Um, our good friend Reverend Panda, who's been on the podcast for a while, and who has been on our streams quite a bit, and we played D&D with him a bunch. Unfortunately, he has passed, and I just felt that we should talk about it as to why he'll never be on the podcast again, because we always enjoyed having him on and talking stuff. His extraordinary high levels of grumpiness towards things will be very missed in the future.
Yeah,
We enjoyed bouncing ideas off of him all the time and talking about him. He was a fantastic DM and just an overall great guy. It's really sad to hear about his passing this past week or
yeah,
so ago.
we had him on the podcast about a month ago, maybe a little more, and
Hmm.
yeah, because he had been battling health issues for quite a while, and at the time it seemed like he was getting better, but you never know with stuff like this.
Yeah. So just thoughts and prayers out for his family. And we'll just try to remember the good times and
Yep.
figure out something for him a bit later. But
Yeah.
on
I,
to
I'll have to share our photo with him from Raft that I still have, where we were all sitting there playing D&D in a video game.
yeah, that was great.
Yep.
He will be missed, definitely. So on to more positive things, or equally grumpy things. Um,
Yeah. So you said you had a couple topics besides that one.
besides that one, yeah. Besides death.
Yeah.
Um,
We're trying our best not to fall into that rabbit hole. It sucks for us all.
yeah. So I finally beat Baldur's Gate 3,
And
and
we can't talk much about this at all.
right. Uh, I've already have 250 hours into it.
Oh, you have surpassed me. I am, and mind you, this included my alpha playtime, but I'm up to 199 hours. So
Yeah, I've been.
Starfield has gotten about the last 30 hours of me.
It is fantastic when it comes to just its interactions with the players. Well, just the player, I guess. It's like a one DM, one player kind of game. So it really works well. That there's a lot of like small checks here and there that it has me do. Like it's giving me some ideas on how I can improve my game a little bit better and keep it more engrossed. But I
Mhm.
have to actually start playing in front of people again for for that to actually work, and I have to be healthy.
Yeah.
Um, but there's one thing that's bothered me a lot about it now that I beat the game. And this isn't a spoiler because it was in the trailer. It was revealed in the trailer that this existed. So This is a fair game for me to
If
talk about
if
it.
it's spoiled for somebody, we're sorry. Maybe skip the next few minutes if you're
It's
really that
in the
concerned. But
trailer. Trailers are considered
yeah, no,
territory talk.
I'm with you. I'm with you. If it's
Yeah.
in the fucking trailer, it's on.
In the trailer, they showed the spectator.
Yep.
Okay. And you think it's a beholder because of just how big it is, but it's a spectator. Okay. Um, and I fight 3 of those throughout the entire game. You fight one like around level 5, and the rest are like all at the end game. And they are just the biggest chumps throughout the entire thing. They should be they're at level 5, it's kind of difficult because it does a lot of ray attacks and there's a lot of minions. But later on in the game, man, they're just like, oh, 2-hit chumps,
Yep.
like all spectators should be. But just this is the one point that really kind of sticks with me with this how close to this game is with canon and portraying monsters and goblins and pronunciation and just the events and like Baldur's Gate history and stuff like that. Why the spectator was changed to kind of be a mini beholder, which it kind of is, but it's like a basketball beholder. But this one's like a beholder sized beholder with like 4 eye stalks instead of 10. So I'd hate to see what a real big beholder is because there's no actual beholder in the game at all.
Hmm.
So that's irritating me because they mention beholders a bunch. They talk about beholders. You read history about beholders. We all know what a beholder is. They don't have a zombie beholder. That would have worked. But then again, it would just been like a big spectator with more eyes. The spectator is the beholder in this game. And it just irritates me that that's just the spectator and like it, it wasn't that threatening, but then I guess the issue that really irritates me is that they use the spectator wrong.
Yeah.
So,
Like I'm even looking at the 5e picture of it, and like
right.
the one in the game definitely is more beholder esque. Now you don't actually get sizes of how big things are in 5e anymore. It,
No, but
it's
it's a
they're
medium creature.
all medium, but it used like early editions. It would say, oh, it looks like a 2 foot 2 foot wide basketball or something like that. It would give you actual kind of size references.
I'm pretty sure they say the spectators can grow up to 3 feet in diameter. Um, so I don't care that they made the spectator bigger. Okay, I mean that's fine. They made it bigger to make it more imposing. There's a big rah eye beams. Cool. They changed the shape of it a little bit, where the spectator kind of has eyes more on the side. But then again, beholders can all look whatever they want, so that's really not the issue. The issue is what a spectator is. Okay, so spectators are a lesser beholder, and they are summoned from another plane of existence by a magical ritual. The components of which are 4 beholder eye stalks that are consumed when you do the ritual. Okay, so then you do this ritual, you basically create and you summon a smaller beholder, okay, the spectator, and then it becomes bound to you, and you use the spectator as a guard. Like it guards treasures and locations.
Yep.
So the first spectator you meet at level 5 makes perfect sense because it's guarding like this one area. Okay. Why is it guarding that area? You don't know. You don't ever figure it out. But it can only be there for 101 years, and then it's allowed to do whatever it wants. Okay.
All right.
So you can also basically summon them to be kind of just like servants for you. And again, the timeline is they are servants for you for about 101 years, and then they go away. Beholders don't have that limitation. They can't be summoned. They're their own entity. They're not servants to you. So the one beholder at level 5 makes sense. The other beholders you fight later that are just kind of like monsters on the field don't make any sense at all because they're like part of an army at that point in time. Which
Yeah.
that's what the beholder should be, but that wouldn't make any sense because there only be one beholder.
Do they
Because if you had
actually
two beholders,
do they actually call them spectators in the game? I know the first one
yes,
was.
they're all spectators.
Okay. Yeah, and
Um,
yeah, because I'm actually reading about them right now, and I never actually knew this, but they actually hail from Mechanus, which is where the Modrons live. Basically, it's the plane of law and order. which makes sense with them being guards. But that's
Yeah,
how that is so far from what beholders are.
yeah,
Beholders are very, very chaotic. They, they tend to be very evil in general. They're created through dreams, if I recall correctly,
hmm
which has a literally nothing other than the way they look has them in any semblance aligning with spectators and beholders. It's so weird.
yeah. I mean, there are a bunch of beholders out there. Not really in fifth edition, although that was alleviated somewhat more recently. Um, it does say here that the beholders have two sets of eyes on each side of their body, and their body is 4 foot in diameter. I thought it was 3 foot, 4 foot in diameter. So it's
Wait,
definitely
are you talking about
not
the
as
spectators?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
They can range from 3 to 4 feet. They weigh about 250 pounds.
so they're definitely much bigger in the game. So the first spectator makes sense. There's another spectator that kind of like, okay, this one makes sense as well. Play the game, figure it out. But the two at the very end, just like on the field fighting you, there's like these guys make no sense at all for being here. They're like part of the army, and like I guess maybe they're servants, and that's why they're there because they were summoned to be there. You can find beholder eye stocks in the game that make potions and stuff. Unfortunately, you can't take four of those things and
Well,
summon a spectator.
here's the thing. What happens after their 101 years?
They get to go free and do whatever they want.
Yeah, so maybe those ones that are in that army have been there for more than 101 years, and they're like, "Oh, just pay us. We'll keep doing what we're doing."
I mean, maybe. I mean, but it's still a stretch.
Yeah, I'm just trying to come up
Yeah.
with something. That's the most logical thing I can think of.
Um, it's just weird that you don't actually fight out an actual beholder in the game. Maybe it'll have a DLC out there that they'll have one or something like that. But
But
um,
there's a lot of stuff. Obviously, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but there's a lot of classic monsters that I would have expected to see that I never saw in that game.
really, like what?
Uh, well, once again, I don't want to even go down this
Well,
route.
I mean, there's so many monsters in existence. I mean, there wasn't a Zorn. Like
Yeah,
that's a classic monster.
yeah. There's a few. We'll talk about it later. I'm not going to give away anything.
Okay,
I'm giving away nothing.
fair enough. Um, but I do like and appreciate a lot of the time they spent kind of like researching things because there were a couple like really good lore drops and a lot of stuff from the previous games as well. More stuff that I'm learning today, um, and being vague about that on purpose.
Yep.
Um, and then there's a couple things that were from an Ed Greenwood video that he finally had some NDAs lifted where he could talk about that kind of showed up in the game. But there's a video out on YouTube right now where it's called "The Dark Secret Stirring in Baldur's Gate,"
Yeah.
and I had talked to you about a little bit about this offline, and I thought it was related to something that happens in the game. I was actually wrong. There's actually another
Do we
greater.
do we
This,
even want to go down this route also? Like,
yes, there is another greater entity that is chained up and imprisoned underneath Baldur's Gate, even deeper than you get to in this game.
sure. Yeah.
Um, and I'm kind of wondering if they are going to bring some of that into the lore now. Now, given the state of the game, what's happened in the game, and how the game ends, like cracks could have formed. This entity could be stirring even more because while it doesn't really have any mention or effect in the game at all, it
Yeah,
is a big part of
let
like why Baldur's Gate came to be where it was.
let's kind of talk about this for a second because you mentioned it to me last night about are the games canon or is Baldur's Gate 3 canon? And I have not Googled this, so there's no absolute on this. But Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 were both canon. So what happened in those stories happened in the Forgotten Realms. It is all part of the lore. Now, that being said, they continued to write novels, they continued to write modules, and I do not think, I won't say there nothing ever popped up in the comic books or things of that nature, but I do not remember there ever being a novel mentioning anything that happened in Baldur's Gate in those first two video games. I do not remember of any modules that ever mentioned anything happening in Baldur's Gate 1 or 2. So while it might technically be canon, it doesn't mean that it's ever going to get utilized. So now moving forward, Baldur's Gate 3, we have to assume everything that happens there is canon. And obviously, we can't talk about it because of lots of spoilers. But 6th edition or 5.5 coming out here shortly, are they going to actually try to utilize any of the stuff that happened in these games with future modules? Because they don't write novels anymore, but they do still put out the modules. You have
Yeah,
any?
I'm wondering because it's very interesting. So if
And
you
we,
watch if you watch a video about um, the dark secrets stirring in Baldur's Gate, Ed Greenwood says that at this point in time he can talk about this, and this is not involved in the game at all. Um, but according to him, and everything he says is canon. Um,
I mean, he knows Forgotten
we de-
Realms better than anyone else.
we demand it to be so.
Yeah, fuck
Um,
it, it's canon to me, damn it.
there is a primordial chained up and bound underneath Baldur's Gate named Trezor. Trezorr.
Oh, I thought it was Craig's brother for a moment.
Trezor. No. And the thing is, like, you could try to figure out some stuff on the Forgotten Realm wiki or anything like that. Like, nothing exists on Trezor
Sure. Probably because they
because,
haven't had time to write it because the NDAs were only just recently lifted.
right, all it mentions it just links back to something there. So he says that there was a primordial chain under Baldur's Gate. Okay, and that is one of the reasons why Baldur's Gate became the being, because its influence caused Baldur and everyone else to kind of like settle there because, oh, there's something drawing me to here and it feels great and wonderful, blah blah blah, and it's Trezor eventually. Now there's been no modules mentioned about this, no books have mentioned this at all. This is just the one YouTube video where he says that that primordial is underneath Baldur's Gate, and him saying that the NDA was left for me to talk about that is interesting. That there's still nothing out there about it. I'm wondering if it's going to be something that happens in the future canon stories that get written in the future. I would at least hope so because it would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That actually leads me to my next topic we're going to talk about. But same thing with like Vecna. Vecna is getting a lot of stuff said and talked about him recently. I really hope Vecna comes back as a classic villain in the future canon releases of the D&D material.
My personal opinion, and this is just me speaking, I never ever want to hear Vecna mentioned again.
Okay.
Other than
You're gonna hate the
uh,
next topic.
no, we can talk about it. It's fine. But my reasoning for that is, and it's dumb. I know it. It's not ever going to happen. This is my own personal opinions. Is that Vecna was from Greyhawk, and Forgotten Realms is Forgotten Realms. And yes, I know, Spelljammer, and they fucking everything really and truly sort of exist in the same world because of Spelljammer. Let's be honest. But because I still separate my Dragonlance from my Forgotten Realms from my Greyhawk. I separate them all in my own mind, and that's where I want to keep them.
Fair
All right.
enough.
So go ahead. Go ahead.
So, coming out in this week, I believe, on the 15th, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
is Fandelver and the Shattered Obelisk, or the Shattered Obelisk and everything under Fandelver.
Oddly enough, I wanted to talk about that.
Okay. So Fandelver and below the Shattered Obelisk. It's currently on pre-release. So you can actually, if you pre-ordered it, you can look at the stuff online. I've been reading through some stuff. I'm very interested about the obelisks that have permeated all the 5e stories, and I was really looking forward to them wrapping up like what those things are and giving some lore as to why they're out there. And I did find that. I did read through and read through all about that, and that's what we'll talk about here in a moment.
Yep.
Luckily, it doesn't actually spoil anything with the actual module itself, so don't worry about that. The module itself is about an obelisk, yes, but the backstory to the obelisk is not central part to the story that is that module. Okay.
Yep.
So the Netherese obelisks. The Shattered Obelisk is only one of several similar obelisks around the world. The Shattered Obelisk being the one that's the I can't remember the darn word.
I don't know. I don't
The
know.
plot it's the plot device for the whole
Oh,
module.
the MacGuffin.
MacGuffin. It's the MacGuffin for the module. So the Shadow Obelisk is one of the several similar obelisks around the world. All are powerful artifacts with dangerous magical effects, although no two have the same powers. The earliest extant examples of these magical obelisks the earliest extant examples of these magical obelisks can rewrite reality on a grand scale. A mysterious group called the Weavers. Now the Weavers, they show a picture of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I know. I love that picture of them. It's ridiculous.
So the picture of them, and this is all on posted in our Discord, so you can go look at the pictures as well. They look like six-armed bug-like aliens.
I
Okay.
they're almost like it's like almost if a snake, like they have like a snake like neck and head with
Yeah.
with six arms, wearing robes. They've got swords in several of the hands usually, and then they've got a rainbow colored ice cream sandwich in the other hand.
Yeah. Uh,
Because that's what that is. I'm sorry, they fucking came up with ice cream sandwiches. So I love these guys.
they kind of look like the bug race,
Oh, the Thrycreen.
the Thicree. They kind of look like Thicree, but less buggy, more arms. They also kind of remind me a lot of the Keepers from Mass Effect.
Yeah,
Um,
they do remind me a lot of that.
so
This
a mysterious group called the Weavers created the obelisks to undo great calamities, often by hurling a region or entire world back in time before the calamity occurred. No one knows anything about the Weavers because the evil wizard Vecna stole the secrets of the obelisks and used them to erase all knowledge of the Weavers from existence. The lore on how to create these artifacts then seeped throughout the world. The most notable obelisk builders were wizards from the now fallen empire of Netherese.
Yep.
So essentially, the Weavers made obelisks to reverse calamities. We don't know where they come from because Vecna stole their knowledge and erased them, probably with an obelisk.
Yeah, and
Who knows?
like the Weavers, I know a lot about Forgotten Realms, but that's a new one on me. So
Yeah,
that's some new lore that's dropped. I don't know who came up with it.
yeah.
Probably Ed Greenwood, but who knows for sure.
I'm actually quite curious if he did or not. Being that Vecna's the one that stole their knowledge and hid them. So the Netherese obelisks vary in appearance. They're always tall obelisks with narrow pyramids on top. They vary in height. They're made of obsidian or an unknown black metal. So they show up in Tomb of Annihilation, right at the front outside. Asarak builds one. Now I was very curious about these because like these are ones that are from the seeped knowledge from the Weavers. Like they don't know how they got the knowledge about building these obelisks and doing stuff.
Hmm.
But these aren't the Weaver obelisks. So the Tomb of Annihilation obelisk that holds a demon inside was built by Asarak. There's another one that was built in Storm King's Thunder that has unknown powers. There's one in the Dungeon of the Mad Mage made by the Shadow Dust family. And then there's one in Out of the Abyss, where there's a guy just assembling a new one. There's also one in Descent into Avernus. There's another demon trapped inside of an obelisk. That again, those aren't Weaver obelisks. The Weaver obelisk being that other one, and they just exist. So they kind of did what I wanted and explained what the obelisks were, but then they were like, oh yeah, it's made by the Weavers. These weird six-armed snake guys.
Isn't this almost the Wheel of Time?
I don't know. I've never read the Wheel of Time.
I haven't either, but I saw the first season of the show. Yeah, I know people hated it. And they had these obelisks that they could literally just travel from one place to another to, and it is called, in fact, the Wheel of Time. So I don't know. Maybe they're just stealing ideas here.
Yeah,
Just that's my 1 cent.
I'm kind of curious about it because like the obelisks were like they were building these things up as being something really important. Okay, and then they're just no, it's just forgotten magical artifacts. Except for that one, which they didn't even discuss or do anything about.
Yeah.
So it's kind of irritating me. So it kind of goes, well, if Vecna's the one that stole the knowledge, and Vecna's been kind of brought back now as a bigger villain, and they're kind of seeping him back into the lore and making him more well known again for newer players and a newer generation, is this going to carry on to the future?
Well,
Uh,
okay. Let's go on to it. Let's get on to a more important section of this discussion, and it's the
ice cream
fact that
sandwiches.
what from sandwiches?
Ice cream sandwiches.
Yeah, let's bring it back to that. No, it's the fact that you mentioned that these weavers would correct situations by time travel. Vecna now has the knowledge, so how to make these
Hmm.
things and use these things. Vecna probably time travel to erase these guys out of existence, etc. 5.5 coming up, major storylines probably coming forward. They could easily do a reset. I know you mentioned this to me earlier, and it makes sense. Anytime you start messing with time travel, you could, if you do it right, you can reset your universe and make at that point all the old you can write off all the second ed stuff, all the third ed stuff, everything at that point. If WotC wants to completely wash their hands of it, they can. I don't like that would happen, and more likely, what usually happens from time travel is whatever nonsense you try to write ends up just sucking horribly and screwing everything up. That's what I think
Yeah.
will happen. But
Yeah, because especially because the Weaver obelisks, um, being that they're made just to basically undo great calamities. Like, what does that mean? What is the extent of that? It's not mentioned in the other book with the Weaver one, the only other Weaver one that's in the setting. So we have all these Netherese obelisks that are holding demons of great power and stuff. Okay, cool. They're using them as channeling foci and stuff like that. They probably can do other great magic things. Okay, you're a DM. You find a Netherese obelisk. You can do whatever you want with it. Um, have at it, create stories. That's awesome. I don't mind that, but
oh, sure,
as
yeah.
long as you can keep them to a magical MacGuffin, and you're not like, okay, well, here's an obelisk. We're going to erase Waterdeep. Haha, it's gone.
If it's your own
Like,
homebrew campaign, fucking do what you want.
yeah,
But yeah, they can't just go writing stuff like that as official WotC stuff.
but like they're bringing Netherese back, just in a massive amount. Like I didn't know who they were at all.
We've talked
You
about
know,
them on here before. Like
yeah,
we did a pretty reasonably deep dive into them.
yeah. Until the Icewind Dale book, I didn't know about them at all. And learning about them was fun, and it's like a big part of the world. But like even the Baldur's Gate 3 game, they're a huge part of that. You know,
Yeah.
um, it's interesting that they're bringing back all these old ideas, but I need to know. I need to know, like, okay, you're about to transition over to a new rule set. You're about to transition into new modules and whatnot. Like, I need to know what the baseline is going in, because what is the size of the box that I'm allowed to work with, for what exists and whatnot. Like, what was the canon ending to Baldur's Gate 3, so I can know how Baldur's Gate is working right now. So when I bring that into the story, if I do, I know how things are going. I know how Waterdeep's going. Waterdeep's just being Waterdeep. Nothing bad happened there, but something bad happened in Baldur's Gate. I know there's a giant ice storm up in Icewind Dale, and the Frostbane was just like, you know what? I'm going to cover everything in ice. So I
Yep.
know what's going on up there. I
Yeah.
have no idea about the rest of the world that's not the Sword Coast.
Well,
Okay,
there is no world outside the Sword Coast.
there's no world.
It's all
there
a
is no
myth. It's not real.
there is no war in Ba Sing Se.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
there's been nothing other than the Icewind Dale module really kind of written outside of it, outside of the Sword Coast,
and you brought this up. There was no campaign book really outside of the Sword Coast Adventures Guide.
which was what 75
Yeah,
pages,
yeah.
tiny ass book.
So I am calling on WotC to write an actual State of the Realms and have a podcast. Come on and talk to us about it. Give us a State of the Faerun book and long form documentary of what things are going, and let me figure out how things are going, because you're about to do some great calamities and roll them back anyways. So at least tell us how things are going.
Well,
You know.
let's hang on, because me and you are both reasonably familiar with Forgotten Realms. So, how many great calamities have there actually been?
So
There was the spell plague. There was when the gods basically all became mortal, and then there was the huge
spell plague.
race. The what?
That's spell plague. Yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking of. Sure, all right. Well, that was when all magic ceased to work for a while, and there was lots of wild magic spots. Uh, it was
Yeah.
that was the Avatar trilogy was the novel set. They didn't.
Okay.
I don't think they called it the spell plague then. They might have been. It's been a long time, so don't fucking quote me. But I don't recall it being called the spell plague. That was
So
probably added on.
the spell
There was a spell plague going around after that was corrected that ended up killing off a lot of people. That's actually what killed Catti from the Driss novels. Hashtag spoilers.
the first or second time.
uh,
Hashtag spoilers.
First time. Well, she got injured really badly, if I remember right, in a fight with some giants, and she couldn't really fight anymore. She was kind of crippled after that, so she had to learn magic. And through learning magic and becoming one of Mistress Favored, she ended up catching this plague that went around through spellcasters, and it killed her permanently, as far as I'm aware. Now, mind you, Driss being what he is, I know there was like resurrected versions of all of his friends and shit, but
Yeah, my wife was telling me about that while on vacation. She read all the Dritz, a bunch of the Dritz books, and all of the. And she's having a hard time reading the Dritz books because if you don't read them now in order, you don't have all the knowledge you need to read the next book.
yeah, need to read them in
And
order. That's important. There's like 30,000 of them.
right, but that's a big undertaking. That's why people won't watch One Piece.
Yeah, it
Um,
is.
so she started reading a series of novels, and then like these people started showing up that were like from like the Thayan region and other regions not anywhere near the Sword Coast. And they're like, "Hey, yeah, I just was born with the knowledge of being right here. Turns out I'm Catti, but I'm actually my own person, not just Catti." And so I don't know. So like it's weird. So the, when it comes to great calamities, it was anytime the pantheon has been usurped and destroyed would be considered a calamity. Um, the fall of the Netherese Empire via Karsus would be considered a great calamity. Um, the spell plague, the gods losing all their power and the weave dying, and the spell plague
The
might be considered a great calamity as well.
sorry, the time of troubles. That was what the original Fall of the Gods was called.
Okay.
And mind you, under Goodreads, it does come up as Spell Plague Part One.
Yeah.
So they added that on later.
Yeah.
Um, so
So when Mister dies and the weave goes away, that and the spell plague shows up, that would be a great calamity, I would think. But I mean, like anything that would change the drastic nature of a planet or world or realm would be a calamity
yeah,
in a sense. But then again, like how many of these have happened without us knowing? And
sure.
there's just an obelisk sitting someplace that would undo it all. That's what I think that the only one that they mention is probably doing something like that. where the Netherese probably did something super effed up that was, unsavable.
Yeah, that would be a calamity is when the Netherese fell. All of their cities fell out of the
But
sky on the same day.
that's the thing, is that the obelisk that's there, um, is post falling of Netherese. So either the falling of the Netherese isn't considered a big enough event that they needed to come back and fix a calamity, but they obviously had to fix something and left the obelisk there as a warning, and that's it. We don't know what it was or anything like that at all. You know,
Yeah,
yeah, I
just that term, just the term calamity is very, very up in the air, and I understand it's probably just there for story writing purposes. Um, you have to wonder how much power the Weavers really and truly had, because with AO coming back and creating the time of troubles by making all the gods immortal, does that even count as a calamity? Who knows how many people actually died during all of that bullshit? Uh, but
I'm wonder
that may not have even registered to these guys.
I'm wondering if the Weavers are the creators of the Weave. I know it's supposed to be Mistra. Mistra is the Weave, but
Yeah,
if these guys are called the Weavers,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, maybe it's just sitting right in front of us.
I was having that same thought as well. Maybe Mister she's opposed.
Maybe that's what the ice cream sandwich is.
Maybe she is a weaver. The original Mistra might have been a weaver.
Maybe.
Dun dun dun. We are going down a rabbit hole hard on this one.
Gail, you sick bastard. I love it. Her 6 arms wrapped around me. Gail, you should have told me she had 6 arms.
Well, no, the current incarnation of her, I think, is Midnight, which was a mortal during the time of troubles. Now, actually, she might be dead. I think she got killed after that. Cyric and them killed her, and then I don't even know who the hell Mistra is anymore. But the original one might have been a weaver. The very first.
Mystaria.
Oh yeah, yeah. See,
Before her name changed to Mistra, she was Mystaria. So Mystaria probably was a weaver.
Yeah, or possibly even before that. Because
Yeah.
we're talking many, many, many thousands of years, and when you're dealing with time travel, who really knows how far back we're talking? Or maybe they're all
Yeah.
from the future.
So the only constants are the primordials and AO.
Yeah, yeah, because all of the gods have changed. I won't say all of them, but many of them have changed. And when
I don't
when he gets
I don't
bored with them,
mind
he's
that.
like, "Here, just become mortals, figure it out." I don't. I actually am okay with the idea with Forgotten Realms of having an over god, because there are 400 different deities in Forgotten Realms. Like Ed Greenwood
Yeah.
had released a video last week or the week before. Let's see where. Let me find this deity's name. Murdane. And the video was titled Murdane: Love Between Gods and the Murder of Lady of Thought. And in the video, he specifically talks about this deity, who was a Helm's lover, one of them, I guess, and her specific portfolio is uh, it's like Sherlock Holmesian thought. Like that's what do they call that? It's detective logic, basically. Not to be confused by philosophical thought or any other type of thought, but specifically that thought.
Mm-hmm.
When you get a pantheon that gets that, that's your portfolio. Just start killing some of these people off, please. I think a deity of thought would be good. That'll cover all of that. Just that one portfolio of thought.
I mean, I grew up heavily influenced, and indoctrinated with the Christian theology, where there's just one singular God,
Yeah.
okay, and that's it. Everything else, if there are stronger people, they're his angels, but he is just the top thing, and all other gods, even if they do exist or don't exist, are just below the one universal one. And I'm like, okay, fine. If that's how Forgotten Realms, that's kind of how I see Forgotten Realms. But like the Norse mythology and the Greek mythology, all that pantheon of gods, they exist, but they're still underneath an umbrella of just like one capital G God kind of thing, and that's
Yeah,
what AO kind of is. And I don't mind that, and I find it very interesting because like you look at all the different cultures that have all the different gods for things, like some of the Native Americans face and stuff like that, having different gods and different spirits and stuff like that, guiding people through things. It's always been very interesting, and it allows for a lot of different world building, and it still lets you kind of have like that one capital guy at the top
sure.
if you want to, and then you can erase them all and just put a whole new set in every 100 years or so.
Yeah. That's what happened during the time of troubles. He became, he threw all of the other deities as to mortals, and a lot of them found their way back to godhood, but some of them did not. I know that, like a couple of them were mortals who ended up getting a hold of certain portfolios, such as murder and things like that. I know Bale and Bane, or Ball and Bane, like neither of them, they had both been mortals who ended up getting access to portfolios. Mistral used to be a woman named Midnight who got a portfolio of magic.
Yeah,
So,
Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is also one of my favorite like little quips of that too, where when they went to Ego and they
mhm.
shit up on his planet, and he goes and Ego's talking to Peter. It's like, yeah, I'm a god, little G.
Little G God. Yeah, but then you look at other world. This is what's funny to me about AO. Whereas AO in Forgotten Realms is the king shit. He's the top guy.
Ed
But
Greenwood.
yeah, sure. AO is Ed Greenwood. I'm fine with that. Because then you go to Dragonlance, and there is no over god.
Hmm.
You have a couple of them that are more powerful than the rest of them,
Yeah,
but
but Gygax is dead, so they can't have that anymore.
well, he didn't do Dragonlance.
Oh,
That was Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman.
right.
Yeah,
You guys are
yeah,
still alive, so.
yeah. They're still alive. They're still kicking. I'm still waiting on that Kickstarter from them. Hurry up, guys. But yeah, like not every realm has an over god. But I think it gets a little ridiculous when you start getting tiny ass portfolios, like the deity of the dollar bill, the deity of ink pens, shit like that, the deity of the
Well,
ham sandwich.
like it all comes down to is like how you handle faith and what power faith gives to a deity. So like you take the Kuatoa for instance, they're a little different, but it's my example where if they put enough faith into something, it becomes real.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's orcs
so
from Warhammer.
it's orcs from Warhammer. With enough faith, they can get stronger. So you have a lot of dead gods in the Forgotten Realms where people just have forgotten about them or they don't exist anymore. So prayers to them are kind of go to nothingness.
Yeah,
So unless you have worshipers giving you more and more faith, you're not going to grow stronger and stronger because faith is like fuel for your divine power.
yeah,
Um,
which means you want a portfolio for things that people actually care about,
yeah,
which makes these lesser portfolios mostly pointless. Like
and
even from a storytelling perspective, it's kind of pointless if that portfolio is something that nobody gives a shit about. Why have it?
so my father was talking to me as a child a long time ago, and he said, um, "It doesn't matter. You can only have faith in God. Nothing else matters. You can't have faith enough in a bottle of Windex to get into heaven." And he said that just because there's a bottle of Windex sitting in front of him at the time.
Yeah,
And so that always stuck with me. And it always stuck with me because like, well, if you give enough people to convince you that being sprayed by this bottle of Windex will cleanse their spirit and send them to heaven, there's enough people that will start to believe that, and you can make an actual faith and religion out of that.
that's how
You
cults
know,
start. That is how
that's how
cults
cults
begin.
start. I mean, you look at just like Christianity in a broad spectrum, and you have like the evangelicals
Yep.
to the Baptists to the Protestants,
To
and all
the branch Davidians,
yeah,
and
to the snake charmers. And the snake ones are the fascinating ones because that's still an active practiced. Like if you're not bitten by the snake and survive its poison, you are not saved. You are not going to heaven. Good luck.
Yep.
Like, okay, where does this line get drawn? And it goes back to the bottle of Windex. If you have enough people to put enough faith behind it, where does that power actually go? And then from a game design standpoint, I handle faith like it's just gasoline. Where if you put enough faith into something, it's going to start becoming real. And
I,
from a real world perspective, it kind of is that way. You kind of like can influence yourself and your own little talking sphere and build yourself up and build this giant like whirlwind of idea space, and make something become true when it's absolutely not true. And we can see that now all throughout the internet.
yeah.
So the bottle of Windex could be God, or at least could be a gateway to God, if you have put enough faith behind it and people follow along. Now, is that gonna really matter?
Yeah.
In real life,
And
probably not. But in your fantasy world, the Kuo believe it, and it's true.
yeah.
It becomes true.
Yeah, I know I've told the story on here of us jokingly creating a deity in our in my buddy Johnny's campaign. We
Yeah.
created the spider god Hefe just because of belief, because in that setting, that's how you become a god.
Hmm.
Like these things are sort of created from just having enough followers. If enough people believe it's true, then that's how it works. And I don't think it works that way in Forgotten Realms, however, but I know there are some settings where just simply belief is enough.
Yeah, I think in Forgotten Realms.
In Forgotten Realms, like there is an actual spark of divinity or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
that getting access to it is what grants divine power.
Yeah, or a god kind of like you said, handing out different portfolios to
Well,
people.
the portfolio, the divine spark, whatever you want to call it, like the portfolio is sort of that's where they gain their followers, and having more followers will get you more power, but
Yeah,
just having followers will not get you to godhood.
maybe not. I might be an example. I'd have to look, but I mean, because we know the Tukuatoa can just do that.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
they're sort of a weird one.
that might be the exception.
Yeah,
I
they
I,
may be the exception.
I looked up North American gods and like this is Native American gods,
Yeah.
and a lot of them are very interesting. Um, so looking at the first one here, I'm gonna murder all these names. The tribe was a Benaki.
Okay.
Um, and they had five gods. They had the trickster god, the kind protector of humanity. I'm not going to say the god names because they're just as confusing,
Yeah,
just for
if you
roll.
can't get the native tribes names right, you're sure not going to get their deities right.
Right. So they had a trickster god, a kind protector of humanity, a cruel evil god, a bird spirit that causes cold weather. And then they had the creator. And a lot of them are kind of follow that same path where there's
Yeah.
one that's the creator and one that's the evil guy. So like the next one, Blackfoot, they have a creator and a trickster. The Aida have a god of violent death and the goddess of peaceful death. Just one or the
Huh.
other. You're
Huh.
gonna There's one or two gods you could follow. Just violent death or peaceful death. Then there's the Ho Chunk. Their god is Red Horn. He who wears human faces on his ears.
Whoa, that's dark.
That's amazing. The Inuit, they have a lunar deity, a master of bears, a sea mother and food provider, a goddess of the hunt, fertility, and medicine. Why did goddess of hunt and fertility always seem to go together? Like that's the same thing in the Greek one. Is
Yeah.
the goddess of
Yeah.
the hunt the same as the goddess of fertility? I don't know. So goddess of hunt, fertility, and medicine. The sea goddess, the ruler of the underworld, a sky god. The Iroquois have a god of summer, a wind god, a maiden transformed into the morning star by dawn, winter, a god of evil, a creator god, and a fertility god. And there's another Indian group here that has only one god. That's just the raven spirit. They're just down with the raven.
Just down with the Ravens. Yep.
Just down with the raven. The Navajo. I'm definitely
Um,
not going to pronounce any of the Navajo gods. They had about 10 or so, ranging from creators, deities, to hunts, to house, wind, water, sun.
so
They seem to
so
have the most of all of them.
So mentioning you, since you're sort of going over all of these, we're talking still about sort of lesser or very, very minor deities and all. In Forgotten Realms, though, I know that it's not necessarily uncommon for people to shoot a quick prayer to some lesser deity. Um, if you're undertaking something. Uh, I think Joaquin was luck and money. No, that's Timora's luck. Um, I know if you're going out on the ocean, you might say a prayer to Umberlee. That way she doesn't drown your ship.
She's gonna fucking do it anyways. I love. Okay, just on the side point, I love that they just call her the sea bitch.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, she is because she'll drown your fucking ship if you don't pray to her. And you don't even have to be a follower of her. You don't even have to know anything about the ocean. Might be the first time you've ever stepped on a ship, but saying a little quick prayer to Umberlee before you do that's probably a good idea.
Like you've never been in a canoe before. You hop in the canoe and you start canoeing out a little bit. You're on a calm, still lake. Also, the water rises up, and this little like willow whale looking half woman shows up. She's like, "Sup, you got a copper?" No. It's like, flip your boat if you don't give me a copper. I don't have a copper on me. Seriously, I'm gonna flip this boat. If you don't give me some fucking money. All right, bitch. Hold on. I got a tomato. Will tomato work? Yeah, okay.
How
She
about
eats a
350?
tomato.
Will 350 work? How about 350? Yeah, but there are a lot of lesser deities within Forgotten Realms that are like that. So I am harping on the fact that a lot of them don't really need to exist, but at the same time, for a DM who really, really gets in depth and knows a lot of these lesser deities, or a player specifically, because
Yeah,
that's stuff that players would do.
yeah.
Like
So like,
like Murdane, like I was talking about it earlier. If we're starting an investigation, I might, maybe my character will throw a quick prayer to Murdane for logical thought.
yeah, and they all seem to revolve around too, like the primordials or titans or the creators of all existence. Like the Greek pantheon has the titans that they you know overthrew to become deities and stuff like that,
Oh
and
yeah,
they
yeah,
exist. Um, but like, there's a shit ton of titans and primordials out there.
yep.
Like, so to have one chained underneath Baldur's Gate is very interesting. And like,
Oh yeah, we're bringing it back around to that.
we really need to like understand more about why there's a primordial chained underneath Baldur's Gate. Like, why is he there? Who chained him there?
it's the
Why has he not come out yet?
it's the Tarask. It's the fucking Tarask. He's been down there the whole time.
Well, Terras aren't primordials.
Are you sure? They're unkillable.
Mm, No,
There's one in existence. You can't really kill it.
my understanding of Terras is that every planet has one, and this may be more of like my own homebrew and my own thought of Terras. I'm looking up right now. Legendary Terras is possibly the most dreaded monster in all of the material plane. It is widely believed that only one of these creatures exists. Okay, so there's only one in Faerun, though no one can predict where and when it will strike. So the problem with the Terras is like, why does it have the back horns, the horns on
Yeah,
its
no,
back?
we've talked about
Yeah,
this before.
like, he
Bigger
can't be.
predators.
It's gotta be free. Yeah, so like, if there's only one, how does he get from planet to planet? Can he fly? Fucking space
No,
travel?
there is only one. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't travel. It doesn't. There aren't any in Dragonlance. Probably there's definitely not any in Dark Sun.
So there's
Uh,
one in Faerun. So how does he go from like the Rock to
we don't even know that there's one in Faerun. It's
there's
never
there's one on the material plane.
material plane. That includes Dragonlance. That includes Greyhawk. That includes Karatur. Or like that
Right. So how does he
includes.
get between those?
He doesn't. There's only one. You just don't know which planet he's on.
Oh, okay. See, for me, I like the Godzilla Terras mythology, where like every planet has a Godzilla, and that Terrask is the protector of the world, birthed by the world, created by the world. So every world has its own separate entity that can either create and destroy or protect it if it wants to. By the way, Godzilla -1,
I saw the trailer for
cannot
that.
fucking wait for that to come out in December. And they're going back to the Godzilla that I
I
really
I was gonna say,
like.
did they make Godzilla the bad guy again finally?
No, they didn't make Godzilla the bad guy again. They're going back to the fact because Godzilla is a representation of the Hiroshima and
Yeah,
Nagasaki
yeah, yeah.
nuclear bombs.
He's a force of nature.
He's a force of nature, so he's showing up. He's showing up to punish the Japanese for their atrocities. Um, their words, not mine.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's from the trailer. Like, yeah,
and the -1 part is that -0 was the nukes hitting, and you can't get worse than you can't get worse than 0. And then Godzilla shows up, so that's why it's Godzilla -1.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, that Godzilla looks pretty cool. It's rumored that Mothra's going to be in it, which will be interesting. Um,
Mothra.
because there's the Godzilla protects everybody
Yep.
and defends everybody from monsters, and then there's the Godzilla just like, nope, time to wipe the slate clean here. And if he
Yeah,
gets too far along with his wiping the slate clean, Mothra shows up and goes, "No, bad Godzilla." And he goes, "Okay,
yeah.
we
They've been
make
doing.
out later." Yeah, okay.
They've been doing a lot of Godzilla movies over the past couple of decades that are all like Godzilla good guy, him fight bad guy. When the simple truth of it is Godzilla destroys everything.
Well, like, even the new Godzilla's, he's just plain and simple. I am the strongest on this planet. Don't don't test me, or I'll kill you. And that's the main. He's an anti-hero
Yeah.
Godzilla. That's the best one. The good guy Godzilla from what was it, the second era, where it's the guy in the rubber suit dancing around and jumping and being friends with Godzuki and shit. Fuck that one. Um, but the one where he, like in Final Wars, where he goes around and just destroys all the monsters because they're out there because the aliens are attacking.
Yeah,
He's
with
like, no,
spaceships chasing him around, and
I'm gonna kill
Bob
the
Sapp and
humans.
Bob Sapp
I'm
and
gonna
Don
kill the
Fry
humans.
flying around in a spaceship hanging out.
Yeah, I'm gonna kill the humans, not you. So I'm gonna kill you first, and then I'm gonna go kill the humans when I'm damn good and ready. So
Best Godzilla movie ever.
it was. It really is. Um, but yeah, it's I can't wait for the next Godzilla movie, the American one, where it's him and Kong versus the orangutan.
Oh, are they doing a wait, what? A giant
Yeah,
orangutan?
yeah.
That,
So
I'm done.
So remember in the last one, Godzilla versus Kong, where they both teamed up and fought Mecha Godzilla, which was actually King Ghidorah's consciousness in the Mecha Godzilla suit, which was really kind of cool and
Wait,
interesting.
when the fuck did this happen?
So you remember Godzilla versus Kong, right?
I remember Godzilla vs Kong. They made another one after that.
No.
Oh, okay.
So in Godzilla versus Kong, they're making Mecha Godzilla. That's what makes Godzilla go crazy and start
Oh,
attacking
okay.
people.
I saw it
Um,
once and I actually forgot that. No, I remember it now. Yeah, because they went into
yeah,
sort of the underworld
yeah, and Kong goes back to there. So while Kong's in the underworld,
because he
he's
came
gonna
back with a club and some fucking armor and stuff.
well, he comes back with a club that has one of Godzilla's scales in it, or one of his back fins, and that's the thing he can. That's why it hurts Godzilla the most. Is his own back fin. Um,
Not sure how
so
any of this relates to D&D, but go ahead.
Terrasks, man, Terrasks.
Okay,
Uh,
we're gonna link it
so
that way. Got it.
so Kong is in the underworld right now, and as he's kind of going around and like, oh, I'm finally home where I want to be, not Skull Island. I get to fight monsters and eat bugs. I'm a happy gorilla. Yay, yay, yay. He's gonna come across the original like bad monster of Earth. That's not alien because King Ghidorah is an alien monster that came to Earth. Um, so there's an original monster that Godzilla defeated with help from Kong's, um, and they beat him and imprisoned him, and he got stuck there in the center of the earth. Well, he got free, unbeknownst to everybody, and murdered all of the Kong, so that's why they're all dead. And so now that Kong is down there, he's going to meet up with him. He's going to meet up Kong. They're going to get Godzilla down
You
to the
don't.
center of the earth so they can fight this
You don't
orangutan.
even need to watch this. You already know the whole fucking thing. Like you know the entire story. You're telling me all of it.
Yeah. Well, you don't know who's going to win, who's going to die. Well, I mean, Godzilla's going to win, but
Yeah, of course Godzilla's gonna win. Anyway, So one last quick topic I wanted to go over before we wrap this thing up. Something sort of silly, as I like to do. Uh, so one of the problems I have, and I know you have it as well, and every DM out there ever has it, and it's the issue of NPC names and your players never ever remembering them.
Steve.
That is truthfully why most of my random NPCs are just Steve, Dave, and Bob, because one, it doesn't matter, and two, that it's easy for everyone to remember. But I was on the Dungeon Master Resources group, and another DM actually had a pretty ingenious idea. So if you have an NPC that matters, that you want your players to actually remember their name, and they're not the most creative thing or ever, so they're not going to really stand out from all your other NPCs, but you still want them to remember their name them after cars,
Hmm.
because everybody knows cars. And there's some very creative car names. They put a whole list, and a lot of these cars I've never even heard of. But like there's Acura, which everybody knows. There's Bentley, uh, Camaro, Ferrari. Like you start naming them after cars, and people will almost certainly remember their names.
Mhm.
Now, obviously, I think if you make everybody named after a car, then it might get a little too much. But I'm
Well,
gonna start call my guy the Ford Fiesta.
I've helped people build like servers, clusters, and stuff like that. When I was in college and stuff before cloud was a thing. But even now, while cloud's a thing, and you have a group of servers or computers that you have to name, coming up with a group of names that work for that is actually very very common. So
Sure,
like
yeah.
when we were in college, the I went to DeVry, the University of DeVry in Columbus, Ohio.
Hmm.
The servers that they had there to work from were all named off of male Final Fantasy characters' names. So we had
Cloud was
Cloud.
was Cloud attached to the cloud?
Well, this was before Cloud existed, but yeah, Cloud was one. I can't remember any other names, but like they had
Yeah,
Sabin, they had Locke, and
Barrett.
yeah, just that worked. There's also I remember one guy, he had a bunch of computers that were all named after snakes. So that works. My computers that I have here at my home are all named after swords, famous swords.
Oh, okay.
So
So
I've had
Muramasa, the
yeah.
Masamune,
So the current
Excalibur.
laptop that I use right now is actually Masamune. The one before that was Excalibur, and I think before that was Ultima. So that's my naming system for the computers.
Hey,
Um,
if it works, it works.
Even my Wi-Fi, because I have like the bigger the newer Wi-Fi and the older Wi-Fi, like the 5 hertz and the 3 hertz. Um, and I basically sword is the main one and dagger is a smaller one. You know,
Yeah, all right.
so when people connect, I'm like connect the sword. You know, um, but yeah, coming up with the name convention would definitely work. I mean, that's a good idea. So just come up with something that works for you. If you don't want to use cars, you could do
Yeah, but
I don't know,
you could actually utilize the car,
soda.
because there's a lot of cars, like I said, that he had listed that I've never even heard of. There's one called Nautilus. There's a I don't even want to pronounce that one, but it's really weird spelling. There's Protos, Rover, Riker. Like these are car names that I've never heard of. Solterra.
That's what you
There's
could do. You could do Star Trek captains.
Yeah, honestly, I think I named half of those. I think are Star Trek.
Kirk, Picard, Hathaway.
Yep.
Is it Hathaway?
Jane Hathaway. Yeah, I think that was her name. Yeah.
What?
Shit.
What was the guy from Deep Space Nine?
I know. Oh God, we're both drawing a blank on his name. Um,
Well, he wasn't a captain until much later.
Cisco. He was Cisco.
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 And now we have the guy back for before Kirk,
Oh, Pike.
Pike. Yeah,
So there's some creative ways to come up with some good names.
it's
Whether it be
not a bad idea.
whether it be cars or whether it be Star Trek captains.
I'd go with the soda names. So we
Sodas.
have Coke, we got Pepsi. No one wants to. Everyone wants to go to Coke, and now everyone
Yeah.
hates Pepsi. And
So
we got Sprite. but he got killed by Starry.
Hey, what's this guy's name? Oh, it's Mountain Dew.
No, his name is Mountain. He's got his best friend Dew.
Dew. Yep.
Yeah.
That there is Doctor. Last name Pepper.
So there's a whole group of them doctors in there. There's Dr. Pepper, Dr. Thunder, Dr. Sam.
Yeah, and that guy, he doesn't have a doctorate. He's his name is Mr. Pibb.
Don't see him, but if you need some opiates, see him.
Yeah, if you need the good stuff, talk to that guy.
Um, did you watch the newest stand up for John Mulaney?
I haven't seen any stand up for John Mulaney.
John Mulaney is a comedian that was like in everybody's good
Oh,
graces until
I know
he
he
like
is. Yeah.
impregnated somebody else, divorced his wife, and went to rehab. This new special is all about him post rehab.
Yep.
And he goes, if you ever want to get a massive amount of opioids, here's what I did. And he says, just go to Google doctors, search by least rated doctors, and those are the ones you go to. And his doctor was just Dr. Tim, and his office was just his kitchen on like Fifth Avenue.
Oh my god, I see that shit all the time. Not with doctors per se, but I'll be trying to find a location for like a thrift store or some shit like that, and I'll hop on Google and it'll pull up thrift stores, and there'll be some place like Tim's thrift store, and it's literally just you look at the photo and it's just a field with a fucking house in front of it. Like, I'm probably not gonna find what I'm looking for there.
I can relate to that too because my father used to take me thrifting all the time.
Yep.
And there's sometimes we're like, oh, there's an antique store here, and like you pull up to the antique store and you go in and it's just the old person's house. Like
Yeah.
they're just selling their possessions. They put a sign outside that said this is an antique store now, but it's just their house.
Yeah, they
And
are
there's
living in there and they're selling anything in there.
yeah. I mean, honestly, that's what my father was doing before he died. He just like selling all his stuff. At least he would put up signs and like tables and shit and actually have a yard sale, you know.
Anyway, all right. I think we've goofed off enough for tonight. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Hopefully, it's entertaining.
And if you guys want, I do have a Godzilla podcast I'm starting. Feel free to tune into that. It's just called Grumpy Godzilla.
Yep.
GG's.
Yeah, that'll definitely happen. I'd listen to it for the first 20 minutes.
It's just him roaring for 20 minutes, and that's the podcast.
Oh, you could get at least an hour out of that.
Remember the Green Day song that they remixed for the Godzilla movie in the 90s?
No,
I think it was like Basket Case or something like that, but it was just the Green Day song with Godzilla's roar interspliced in between the music.
Oh my god, I know that they did there was a Zeppelin song that they remade.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was.
But someone actually remade that. But the other one, the Green Day song, is just the Green Day song, but they added Godzilla roaring like in between the verses for some dumb reason. It wasn't remixed or anything like
let's be very honest. 90s America Godzilla was generally really bad.
He killed some in Final Wars.
Well,
they named him Zilla.
Yeah. Zilla.
The best part is too is they mention him in one of the Godzilla movies. They go, well, didn't Godzilla attack New York? He goes, no, that was just a lesser iguana. We named him Zilla. He definitely is not Godzilla. And then Godzilla shows up and murders him.
Nice. Nice.
I love how they wrap that up. No, he's a shame to everybody. We all hate him.
All right, guys, we're out. Bye, Craig. Bye, Chris.